It's that time of year again. Nintendo has just announced a date for their June 2024 Direct, and in this video, I'll be going over my predictions on what game announcements we could potentially see. So without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into the predictions. For this video, I'll be giving my predictions via a Nintendo Direct bingo card like I usually do. Although I should mention, I'm not really going for a 5-in-a-row bingo, nor am I saying to expect every single one of these announcements to be in the Direct. These are simply 24 potential games that we may see. Starting off, we've got a new Rhythm Heaven game. While I never played this series, I was shocked to realize that the latest installment of this game was in 2016, with Rhythm Heaven Megamix for the 3DS. I can understand why this series skipped the Wii U for obvious reasons, but I mean, no new Rhythm Heaven game 7 years into the Switch era seems crazy to me. I have read that the developer of the game was interested in having a new installment for the Switch, but never got around to doing it. I think this would be a perfect installment for the Nintendo Switch, as Rhythm Heaven has potential in using the Joy-Con in a fun and creative way. It would truly be a shame if the Switch didn't get a Rhythm Heaven game during its life cycle. Next up, Hollow Knight Silksong. I know. Hollow Knight fans, you're probably telling me to forget hoping for this while I still can, because for years now, Direct after Direct, fans have been waiting for news on this game, but have gotten nothing. But hey, I mean, for what could be the last Nintendo Direct before we have the next console revealed to us, this would be a hype announcement that could show off new gameplay elements, level design, and information on a tangible release date. Silksong fans, take this prediction with a grain of salt, but I think that maybe, just maybe, this could be the time. Moving on to an already announced first-party title that's coming out at the end of the month, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I don't think this will have much of a big focus, maybe just a brief little reminder that the game is coming out, with 1 or 2 new clips for us to analyze, or maybe a little look at the quality of life update that they may add to the online mode, but other than that, nothing jaw-dropping, as I personally think this game is simply just an upscaled port of the previous 3DS title. But I think after our little reminder of Luigi's Mansion 2, Nintendo could hit us with a shadow drop of a port of the original Luigi's Mansion that was released on GameCube. Why do I think this? Well, think about it. If Nintendo were to do this, it would make the entire Luigi's Mansion franchise playable on the Switch. I really don't think this is out of the realm of possibility. I mean, we saw them do this with the Pikmin franchise when they released basic ports of Pikmin 1 and 2 just before the release of Pikmin 4. And by the way, I believe a port of Luigi's Mansion 1 would be on par with the ports of Pikmin 1 and 2. So yeah, Luigi's Mansion 1 port as a shadow drop could be a nice surprise. Next up, we've got Fire Emblem. Specifically, I'm predicting a remake of Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. I don't play Fire Emblem, but if you remember back to when Fire Emblem Engage was announced at the September 2022 Direct, well, before it was revealed, screenshots from the game actually leaked out. Like straight up full HD images of gameplay views and menus were leaked onto the internet. Well, around that same time those leaks happened, there were rumblings that Engage was not the only Fire Emblem project that Nintendo was working on, and that there was also a remaster of a Fire Emblem game in their pipeline. I've seen the internet speculate that this could be Genealogy of the Holy War, so I think now could be the time we see Nintendo reveal this supposedly long-finished game. Alright, now moving on to some Pokemon news, which may be at this Nintendo Direct or at a Pokemon Presents later down the line. A pretty simple prediction that I have is that we'll see some of the early generation Pokemon games come to Nintendo Switch Online, both the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance. It's surprising that they didn't capitalize on releasing mainline Pokemon games to the service when it was first announced, but hey, it's better late than never. So be on the lookout for one or more of Fire Red, Leaf Green, Gold Silver, or Ruby Sapphire to come to Switch Online. We could maybe even get a spin-off title like the Mystery Dungeon that was released on the GBA. In other Pokemon news, we could also get a new remake. I'm personally predicting remakes of Black and White because these were heavily rumored for months now. And honestly, I was expecting to see these games at the previous Pokemon Presents that occurred earlier this year. But given how early BDSP was announced, only for it to be kind of a letdown, I believe that an announcement of these games now, for a release in November, would be good for the Pokemon Company and ILCA, who I think are once again behind this port. It's been a few years since the Gen 4 remakes, so I think we're due for Gen 5 to see some love. Next up, a port of F-Zero GX. This is a GameCube title that I expected to see ported over for quite a few directs now, especially since something F-Zero related was teased by Silex Hunter on Twitter way back when. Or were they teasing F-Zero 99? Who knows really, but what I do know is that this is a port that has been in discussion since 2022. Perhaps the positive reception to F-Zero 99 has made Nintendo confident that fans may be itching to play a real F-Zero game, so they might see now as a good time to release this game. I don't see a new F-Zero being released until Switch 2 comes out, so for now, F-Zero fans can enjoy what I hope will be a solid port of F-Zero GX. Nintendo Switch Sports. I mean, if this game is going to get any kind of content update, it has to be now, right? The game literally has Nintendo Switch in the title. For this prediction, I'm going back on something I've said before, and that's DLC in the form of new sports. This game was data mined, and plans for the game having dodgeball and basketball, among other sports, were found. Now, while this may be a scrapped idea that developers of the game didn't end up going with, I think the potential for Switch Sports to have a handful of new sports added via DLC is great. Just add a couple new buildings or a boat to take you to new sports facilities in Spoko Square and boom, new content and hours of fun achieved. It may seem a little late to give this game DLC, but seeing as Mario Kart, Super Mario Party, and Animal Crossing New Horizons got substantive updates over a year after release, I don't see why Nintendo wouldn't go back to Nintendo Switch Sports. Alright, this one is a bit of an interesting prediction because there are multiple ways that this one could go. But I am predicting that we may see some kind of new Warriors game, similar to the Hyrule Warriors franchise and Fire Emblem Warriors franchise. Perhaps we get another Fire Emblem Warriors game, or a Hyrule Warriors game that takes inspiration from Tears of the Kingdom by using Zonai devices and fighting in the underground or Sky Islands. But I also think we could see other well-known franchises take on a Warriors game style for the first time. Imagine a Xenoblade Warriors or a Kirby Warriors. Tons of unique abilities to take advantage of there and make the gameplay exciting. This one is a bit out there, but it could be a hidden gem that we see announced at this Direct. Getting to some pretty hype stuff now, I think it's finally time that we get Wind Waker HD for the Nintendo Switch. The rumors about Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD coming to Switch have been rampant for years now, and in the past I've predicted that we would have even seen a double pack of these games. But I think Nintendo is going to be smart and release Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD separately at full price. I mean, Zelda is a big franchise that sells after all. Plus, Wind Waker is the easier of the two to port in my opinion. You already have the HD engine you used when porting Wind Waker to the Wii U. The only thing that would need to be done is to upscale it a little bit more and to redo the controls so that they work with the Switch's button layout. Wind Waker is a solid prediction that this time around I am super confident that we see. It would also be fitting if it released later this summer, say in August. As for Twilight Princess on the other hand, I think Nintendo saves that for a rainy day in 2025. Moving on to some Mario news. Yes, after Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Mario RPG, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and Thousand Year Door, Nintendo still has some Mario action to come. While I think a mainline game will be saved for the release of Switch 2, for now, we could get a new Mario Party game. Typically, we have seen new installments of the Mario Party franchise every 3 years, so we are right on cue for a new installment. At first, I was thinking that Nintendo would want to save another Mario Party for Switch 2. But then I thought about how multiplayer focused Mario Party has become in the past few years. To release it on Switch 2 would mean that 3 of my friends would need to upgrade to a Switch 2 just to play Mario Party with me online. The current Switch has the install base required for Mario Party to be a success. Therefore, I believe a Switch release of the next Mario Party makes the most sense. I am hoping for this game to follow in the footsteps of what Superstars was, going back to Mario Party's roots, and where every character is balanced and moves along the board themselves. But while the boards in Superstars paid homage to the N64 era of Mario Party, I am hoping that this game is new and original, with more than 5 boards to play at launch. Next up is a prediction of a game that I am fairly certain will show up at the Direct because it was hinted at by one of the most credible insiders named Midori on Twitter. New information on the HD 2D remake of Dragon Quest III. I don't see news on this game being something that the Direct will fade to black and then cut to, more so I see it as one of those announcements hidden in a batch of headlines. That doesn't take away from it though, as I'm sure Dragon Quest fans will leave this Direct very happy upon seeing this announcement. Alright, for these next couple of predictions, I'm gonna hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Or I guess you could say 2 games with 1 prediction. Ports of Metroid Prime 2 and 3. Maybe we get one of them while the other is later on, or we get both in the same Direct. Maybe, just like with Metroid Prime Remastered and the first 2 Pikmin ports, we see them shadow dropped. I will say though that if we do get both, I would not expect them to look as good as Metroid Prime Remastered, but still a graphical step up from the GameCube and Wii era. I'll touch on this later on, but I think Metroid Prime 4 is super close. And considering that Nintendo made Prime 1 playable on Switch, I expect them to do the same for Metroid Prime 2 and 3. Plus, as unique as Metroid is as a franchise, it is pretty niche compared to Mario and Zelda. But both Metroid Dread and Prime Remastered have been looking to change that, and hopefully ports of Prime 2 and 3 can continue that trend. This next prediction, while having a 2 in its name, is a game that I think doesn't need to wait for Switch 2. For this direct, I am predicting that we may see ARMS 2 announced for the current Nintendo Switch console. Why do I think this? Well, as the Switch nears the end of its era, I think that any games that make Joy-Con functionality the core mechanics of their gameplay should probably be announced and released by now. Because while Switch 2 may have controllers that are essentially upgraded Joy-Con, there may be some other gimmick with the controllers that launch games would want to emphasize more. When it comes to ARMS, there is no better example of a game that heavily requires the Joy-Con to be played. So I think a sequel to ARMS would be a great fit for the end of the Switch's lifecycle. Next, a port or remake of Kirby and the Rainbow Curse that I am solely predicting because last month we saw the trademark for this game get refiled. And I've noticed that for the past couple years now, Nintendo loves having some kind of Kirby content each year. I mean, we got Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Kirby's Dream Buffet, and Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, all within the past 2 years. So if Nintendo does have Kirby and the Rainbow Curse in the works, now could be a good time to release it to keep up this newfound Kirby momentum. Another game that we have seen heavily rumored for a while now is an HD port of Kid Icarus Uprising from the 3DS. Kid Icarus has not received any love on the Nintendo Switch, unless you count Smash Bros or Nintendo Switch Online. Mr. Sakurai himself also hinted at the idea of this game getting an HD port, albeit in a very vague and joking way, but perhaps that was intentional. Kid Icarus Uprising HD is a fan favorite on the 3DS and is often viewed as underrated. Giving the game an HD port would allow the game to reach a new fan base, and this could help the Kid Icarus franchise gain popularity again. Alright, I am praying that this next one happens. It's a bit of wishful thinking, but Tomodachi Life 2. First of all, the game got its trademark renewed last year, which could mean nothing, but at the very least, it surely made Nintendo think about this franchise again, and maybe even prompted them to scout out fan perception of the game. Fans really want to see this game again, and this could be the last chance for it to happen, because we don't know if Miis are even going to be around in the Switch 2. With the existing consumer base and Mii avatars on the current Switch console, Nintendo has a prime opportunity to revive this franchise. I can even see Tomodachi Life 2 being one of Nintendo's better selling titles. Definitely better than Miitopia for sure. So please Nintendo, make it happen. Next one is super simple, but Just Dance 2025. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, it'll come to Switch when it releases, and it does tend to get some screen time in Nintendo Directs. So yes, easy prediction for me to make. Alright, a little bit of an interesting one because I think Hi-Fi Rush could be getting ported over to Nintendo Switch. This prediction comes by way of a data mine that seems to have implied that a Switch port for this game was in the works. However, fans of Hi-Fi Rush may be thinking, wait, but the studio that made the game, Tango Gameworks, was shut down by Microsoft recently. And yes, that is correct information. It honestly sucks that they got shut down, considering how much of a hit Hi-Fi Rush was. But Tango Gameworks is based in Japan, and Nintendo is a Japanese company, so could there be a bit of common interest to make a Switch port of the game worth fighting for? It is a bit unlikely given the circumstances, but I believe there is still a shot. Would it be a Vegan prediction video if I did not predict a new Donkey Kong game? I have been predicting this since 2021, and I am doing it again. This game has apparently been done for a while now, with Nintendo just sitting on it. Is this a 2D game like Donkey Kong Country, or is it something bigger that plays more like Donkey Kong 64? It is widely speculated that the team that made Super Mario Odyssey is at the helm of this Donkey Kong project, so anything is possible. Donkey Kong has only gone in Tropical Freeze on the Switch, and that's a port of a Wii U title. For 7 years, there has been no original Donkey Kong release that we can refer to as the big deal Donkey Kong game that came out on the Nintendo Switch. They could wait to push this game to Switch too, but I actually think that this new Donkey Kong game is needed now more than ever. I would expect this game to come out in early fall and be marketed like crazy. This in essence would be Nintendo's big holiday title, just like how Super Mario Bros. Wonder was last year. There still may be some Donkey Kong hype left from the Mario movie, and we also have the Donkey Kong expansion for Super Nintendo World expected later this year. It makes perfect sense for Nintendo to release this game now. The situation calls for it, and the hype for the Donkey Kong franchise is there. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Alright, getting near the end now, and I'm gonna throw in a Mario sports game. Not a Mario sports mix, but a sports game focused on one particular sport. Just like how we got Mario Tennis Aces, Mario Golf Super Rush, and Mario Strikers Battle League. These aforementioned titles have unfortunately been a bit underwhelming, and the Mario Sports game brand as a whole has been met with some negative connotations. I for one bought Mario Strikers Battle League and thought that it was incredibly lackluster. But we may be due for another Mario Sports game by now, and I really hope they do it justice. As for what sport it is, I think Mario Sluggers Baseball would be amazing. I love that game on Wii. We could also get basketball, one that is even more fleshed out than Mario Hoops 3-on-3. If they do make a new Mario Sports game, I really hope they do it well. Add a good campaign mode, a large roster of characters, and some good online functionality. I feel like Nintendo has yet to hit the mark when it comes to the Mario Sports franchise, and I'm hoping that this title could change that. And for my final prediction, which I believe will be Nintendo's One More Thing announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Metroid Prime 4 to see the light of day. Since the beginning of the Switch's life cycle, Nintendo has promised that this game was developed for Nintendo Switch. And don't get me wrong, a Switch 2 version of this game would definitely blow minds, but the fact of the matter is that Nintendo promised Switch fans that this game would come out for the Nintendo Switch. To all of a sudden have it pushed exclusively to the next generation console would be a massive disservice to Switch owners who have patiently been waiting to play this game. I think we're in store for a big blowout here. Metroid Prime 4 cinematics, gameplay action, and some brief story details, all concluding with a set-in-stone release date for this fall. This will be another big holiday title for Nintendo, and the last heavy-hitting title that will launch on the Nintendo Switch console, before the eventual reveal of Nintendo Switch 2, which is likely going to be later in 2024. And there you have it. These are my predictions for this June's Nintendo Direct. Let's see how many I get right. But what do you think will be announced at the Direct? Anything that I might have missed? I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. But that's going to wrap things up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.